all of the Twitch channels that you'll be watching all of this content for quite a bit more. However, we've got the draft going on here for Tempo Storm versus 1 Point. For game number 1, who's going to take that first point?
All right, so Tempo Storm looks like they're going to be on the left-hand side. They are getting not the first pick, first ban, so it will be up to 1 point to lead us off, and they say nay to Jaina. And of course, that's totally not the second ban. It's going to be Zeratul as the second ban going forward.
All right, and with that Zeratul second ban, we're going to see the first pick of Sylvanas.
As a big note, Sky Temple is actually going to be the match here, not Tomb of the Spider Queen. And have we seen a Sky Temple today? I think our very first game was Sky Temple, wasn't it?
Yes, first game was Sky Temple.
All right,
So, yeah, we're going to be circling back to that first game, of course, with the now Sky Temple here. And let's take a quick look at just, what's really important on Sky Temple, because already we see Tempo Storm picking up Kael'thas and Johanna as their second and third picks. And Kael'thas brings out a lot of AoE, and so does Johanna, and both of those are really important on this map.
Yeah, the control of Johanna could actually lead us into an Asmodan, as these are the progenitors of that kind of strategy, and we've seen them do it on Sky Temple before. But I mean, with Jaina out, it's almost natural, I want to say, that you have to get one of the mages in these first round picks.
Exactly. So they're going to pick up the Kael'thas. That's going to be their mage, but 1 Point going to respond by picking up Malfurion and Tassadar. Both of these work really well together since Malfurion lost his protective shield at level 4. Tassadar will be able to stop a little bit of that burst damage by using his own plasma shields at Q.
I might have misspoke. There is not going to be an Asmodan here, as it was just banned out from 1 Point. So they're going to say, Tempo Storm, no thanks. We're not going to be dealing with that, which could lead us into, we have to look for a healer. Tempo Storm very likely for the Rhaegar, since it's still on the board. But past that, a little bit more damage to go with Kael'thas. Could be the Falstead, could be the Zagara, could be the Vala.
Yeah, I think probably Vala would be the best pick, but I know Tempo Storm doesn't actually really prefer Vala that much. So we'll have to see.
Prefers Vala anymore.
That's true, very true. So Tempo Storm bans out Muradin as their warrior ban.
Well,
because 1 Point still hasn't picked out one.
We're just bad at calling this today, aren't we?
Yeah, apparently.
Vala is the pickup from Tempo Storm.
Well, guess we should just stop talking, let the draft out. No, I'm kidding. But okay, that's fine. Vala is actually a really good pickup here, and we were talking about this. Even though Tempo Storm doesn't really always prefer Vala, she's still a very good option.
I would expect to see a Zagara as kind of like one of those last picks, maybe in the next round, because I expect to see a Rhaegar here. And unfortunately, you're right. We should just stop talking.
Wow. Now that is an interesting pickup. The Tychus, which is not actually what we normally see from Tempo Storm.
I don't think God, when was the last time we would have seen a Tychus from Tempo Storm? Yeah, exactly. Can't really think of it off the top of our head.
It must have been back when Odin was still giving second life bars, so that must have been 3-4 months ago.
Oh, that's like, I think that change came before beta. That was a change
5
like
months ago?
Last year. Yikes. Either way, I mean, we've seen actually, now this is our third game of Tychus today. Maybe creeping back a little bit here into the meta. Not really a lot to stop out overkills at this point. I mean, the grenade did take a little bit of a hit, as it's no longer technically a stun, but just a daze. But still, I mean, we saw this a little bit earlier. The chasing potential of Tychuses can actually be very monstrous.
Well, taking a look at 1 Point, they're going to pick up Falstad, so that's going to allow them to fly back and forth between both the temples. And then Anubarak, who is very befitting on this map because there's a lot of bugs and the Spider Queen, etc. So this all fits very well into a very nice composition coming out here from 1 Point. I like it quite a bit. And Tempo Storm going to round out their composition with a Rhaegar. There wasn't any bans on supports, and 1 Point already picked up Malfurion, so they weren't really too scared of that Rhaegar going away, so they just left that for their last pick.
And even if they had to go with an Uther by the end of it, up against the double supports, or the triple supports, if it was going to be a Rhaegar steal for that. Yeah, Tempo Storm is definitely in a good position. So, Vala, Tychus. Will this be multi-shot? Will this be more of the Q build that we've been seeing a lot more recently? It kind of comes down to, I think, who's going to be playing that Vala as we go into it. But for the dueling purposes, I mean, if they catch out the Falstead anywhere, the Sylvanas, they don't have these really secure escape methods, right?
Yeah, that's quite true. So, they're going to have to really rely on just those Ancestrals and the massive amount of healing coming in there from the Rhaegar to really make sure that they can get in and out of those team fights without losing too many members. Again, I'm curious to see what the Tychus is going to go for. I feel like an Odin would probably be pretty good here, but a laser could also work really well as just a stationary target that 1 point would have to focus down.
Yeah, and we're just taking a quick break because Dreadnought apparently just needs to run to the little boys' room. So we're going to get this going here in just a few minutes. And I mean, 1 point, this is not a team that we've actually seen yet, but they have come out of this undefeated so far as they are here into the round of 16. And this is the match money point for 1 point, because if they can somehow defeat Tempo Storm, they will not only knock out the #1 seed in this tournament, but they're also going to be going to the round of 8, which will be next weekend, and that is where you secure real cash.
That's quite true. So already we're up to $400 of BattleNet credit for all of these teams that have made it this far. Ooh, $400. That's nice. Whoever goes past this is getting into the real money of $800 a person in USD. And that, or sorry, not per person, sorry, per team in USD. And that's a good amount of money. And then past that is where we start getting into the fun part. Is Tempo going to go all the way to first place? Get that $8,500 for first place.
That's a pretty sizable amount of money. Nate, could that actually be the single biggest first place prizing so far in a tournament?
Oh, most certainly. I mean, that's more than 3 times the whole prize pool of Titan Arena. I know that, but the game is already ready to go, so let's get on into it. Sky Temple going to be game number 1. This is 1 point versus Tempo Storm. Pretty excited to see how this is all going to go out.
All right, so on Sky Temple, capture the temples, hold them temples, and defend them temples. I think this map is called Sky Temple for a reason, Mr. Sham, too. But when it comes to kind of sitting down on these points, I mean, Johanna shouldn't have any kind of trouble dealing with this. Vala, Rhaegar can easily solo out here, especially if we do go for a little bit of life return there for that Vala. Rhaegar, of course, can just heal himself and wolf chomp down everybody that needs to. We can also have Falstad, Nubarak, Tassadar, Malfurion. I wouldn't really want to put a Sylvanas on top of that. So when some of these multi-temple spawns come out, I'm curious if it's going to be an engage from either side or if they're going to be happy just to kind of trade out and soak.
I'm very curious as well. I mean, I feel like Tempo's got a very, very nice team composition for fighting, but let's talk about Tempo Storm. They're spawning over here on the blue hand side. It's KO, Arthalon, Zuna, Soldier, and Dreadnought rounding out their team, and I'm pretty impressed with their composition because it's just a little bit different.
All right, so coming into the newcomer seat here, 1 point, a Canadian team according to the brackets. It's Yuki, Peruvian Jedi, Doc Destroy, Solus, and Machoke. Machoke is like, that's a name that is, you know, tickling something in the back of my brain, and I'm not talking about Pokemon either. I think I've seen him around in Hero Leagues before, but the rest of the names veritably unknown to me, as they now have a little bit of, you know, an uphill battle. Tempo Storm has such a towering reputation and so far a flawless record here in this tournament.
That they do. I mean, look at their last opponents. Oh me, oh my. They didn't really have much of a competition in that last round. So let's see if 1 point can at least put 1 point on the map as we go on into a little bit of both these teams getting their creep waves pushing and starting to see a little bit of damage going on both sides.
All right, ping up top. They are going to notice that it is going to be the Rhaegar. Yuki and crew, they didn't notice that they lost out that watchtower, and here comes Zuna, Dreadnought there as well. Not quite sure that that will be a Yuki kill. It's going to be very close to it, but didn't quite have the bang for the buck. Tychus, however, is the return gank in bottom as Machoke came down as Solus sealed the deal behind the gate.
Yeah, and that's going to be a nice pickup. They're going to pick up first blood then, so they're doing pretty well already. Let's see if they can keep that going as they have a little bit of an experience lead going on into the first spawn of both the temples. Mid and top, of course, have spawned here. And you know what? We were kind of noticing last game that we saw Sky Temple picking up the mid temple, allowing that to do a lot of damage to that mid fort, and then picking up the bot temple later on and doing a good amount of damage to that bot temple allows you to almost pick up 2 forts pretty easily. So I'm wondering if mid temple still has a little bit more priority than the top.
Well, so far it's only Dreadnought to kind of even contest the top, and it is going to be Yuki just sitting on that point. Up comes Arthalon from below, so they might look to contest it, both of them. So far, Soldier and Zuna will be camping down there on the mid. Arthalon is going to go in on top of the Peruvian Jedi, but big roots, big heals. not entirely too sure this will dissuade 1 point from actually leaving.
Yeah, already they're doing a pretty good amount of damage to Arthalon and making sure that he's going to be zoned back here. They still are keeping good control of this temple, and they've got level 4 just coming out for both these teams right now. So we're seeing a Beetle build come out there from the Anubarak. He picked up Assault Scarab and Legion of Beetles. And right now we have a little bit of a fight here in the mid lane as we've got the Vala in the bot lane soaking up a good amount of damage. But at the same time, Zuna going to go down. Solus trying to stay alive. There's the plasma shield from Tassadar to keep Solus alive for just a little bit longer.
And it actually will be the final shots here. Looks like they might even go all the way over to 1 point. That's low hit points on Soldier. Dreadnought's no longer top, so they've given that up. In fact, Dreadnought is going to take a dirt nap. The last shots from top going out. The last shots here from mid. Kills is 3-0. Well, 3-1 as we just lost out the Falstad. And, well, okay, yep, there it is. The last shots are now going to be there. And not that really big of a level difference between the teams, despite all that.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well. I mean, a lot of that level difference is going to come from just KO pushing into that bot lane. And just that's the only person in bot lane, so all that experience going over the tempo for so long. Solus is going to be able to pick up this wave, but still, that's a lot of experience that they lost and that KO was able to pick up, but still all that damage coming in from those towers, from both those temples, I should say, onto both those forts. It's a good point here for 1 point.
So we have a Malfurion on one side. We don't actually have anybody that can take Mule from Temple Storm. So I'm very curious to see if that will actually be the case here for our Malfurion player. He does actually have the Elun's Grace already with that scouting drone, as previously mentioned. Will it be the Mule, or is he going to go into Rampant Growth? Or the
Interestingly enough, look at that level 4, though. He still picks up Promote.
The Tassadar has Promote, yes. That is something that we don't see a lot of these days.
And we're seeing the static charge at level 7 for him as well, so he's going a little bit more damage heavy.
No mules.
As a Tassadar, so no mules for either. They're going to pick up that cleanse with the Elun's Grace on Malfurion, so Malfurion going to be able to lay down those heals from far away, and then also be able to allow his teammates that are getting crowd controlled down to just kind of disengage.
Soldier and Zuna, they're going to be doing some of these bruisers. It looks like 1 point is going to be basically on the same page as they are going to be doing theirs as well. We should have that bottom temple spawning pretty soon, but already so much damage now going down into this bottom end. Look at that melting point starting to work away. If Tempo Storm can take this bottom temple with already that front gate gone, this could be a fort.
It could very well be. Already they've got Yuki trying to stay up here and defend. That's the only issue there, is that if they're going to have their support up here to defend, well, there's going to be no one in bot to go help heal everybody. Ooh, Machoke going a little bit deep, trying to do a little bit of damage here. Doc Destroy and Machoke getting grabbed here by Soldier in that Condemned. Tempo trying to move on down here. It looks like they're going to keep their Sylvanas up in the top lane.
Yep, so far. I mean, Sylvanas is just an excellent defender up against these big Merc pushes, these big creep pushes, but on a 4v5 situation, yeah, it's not exactly going to get them a lot of value. She is mounted and now going to be heading down, but could this be too little too late?
That's going to be a huge question to be answered very shortly. Machoke trying to go for some sort of angle to get on in here, but Soldier is very, very nicely positioned to defend both of those choke points. That first fort going down here over to Tempo Storm. Now we have to see that 1 point has to be very careful. If they let Tempo get a little bit too much experience, this could easily be level 10, and this would be a huge fight for them to lose. KO getting cleansed, going to take a whole bunch of damage, but I don't think this is going to allow them to get a huge kill. All right, they get the kill, but unfortunately, they also lose a death as well. Tempo now hitting level 10. There's the Odin, and Falstad falls, and there's the Sylvanas falls, and this is going to be a complete team wipe.
Yuki, even like just by himself, won't be able to do anything up against that Zuda, and Arthalon in that Odin marching down. Thor is here indeed. And, you know, it was a great idea. They actually collapsed on top of the Vala, but the levels were just not in their favor. With that death, that fort, it catapulted Tempo Storm to that ultimate heroic tier of talents. And as you saw, every single one of them came out, well, except KO because she was dead. And you know what? Even with that team fight aside, we still trade out the forts to 1-1 for the lanes.
Yeah, so they're not really in that terrible of a position. Even though they just had a 5-person wipe, it's still not that bad of a spot here for them. It's 7-4 in the takedown, so they're still doing okay.
Yeah,
Level behind, so that's going to be rough. They just need to start soaking better than Tempo.
Now, Solo's down here. He has actually gone into the power throw. You see as well charged up for 2 additional lightning strikes. Now boomerang. So it's a bit more of a mage build from him. The Vala has actually gone into the dueling build of siphoning and puncturing arrow a little bit early and repeating arrow for the reset there as well. You get one-on-one on her, you're likely not to come out alive by the end of it. But level 12 to 11, a lot of posturing for these giants into the bottom, but we already have 2 sets of giants pushing down for Tempo Storm.
Quite right, and so they're just going to start moving on in here. Without a fort there, though, it's going to take a little bit of time for them to actually get anywhere where they're going to start doing some structure damage. Scouting drone going to get taken out here by Soldier. Machoke looks like he's posturing to do a little bit of an engagement if possible. It is going to be a 5v4, though, in favor of 1 point, considering that Tychus is in the top lane. So if they're going to do something, they got to do something really quick. KO looks like it's going to be the target here. Hasn't used Tumble just yet. There's a huge amount of crowd control going down there, and the Hinterless Blast, it's good. Unfortunately, they're going to lose their Sophonis at the same time. There's Tranquility going down here. Solus trying to use his damage against Soldier. I don't know if it's going to be successful in netting them another takedown. But yeah, Tempo's going to back up, and that was a 5v4.
That was a 5v4, and still Tempo traded out very well. The silencing arrow looked like it missed at first glance from the Sylvanas, but it actually landed on top of Dreadnought, which immediately prompted a Hinterlands to delete out KO. And so far, I think KO has been the prime death. So far, at least 3 of those 5 takedowns have all been on Vala.
Yeah, so 2 of the 5. So KO, though, seems to be the very big target they want to go for. Zuna is just always too far back. So KO has to be a little bit more aggressive in a forward position, and it, of course, is easier to take out. And if they lose Zuna, well, they lose those gathering power stacks. He's at 5 right now.
Yeah, the big thing is to try to take down the Kael'thas now. I mean, the Vala also has a spell shield, and, you know, Lead Rain coming out here from the Tychus as well. So, I mean, you have to kind of shift your focus here. The big target is going to be that Kael'thas with those stacks, especially with level 16 coming up in just a few moments. It's a little hard to say you can ignore him. You just can't say that.
You really can't. And even then, look at engagement at the mid temple as well. Just the damage, the poking potential coming in here from Tempo is absolutely ridiculous. Zuna was able to whittle away the entire enemy team without even going into a whole engagement, and they just had to leave. They couldn't even stay there any longer.
And now stealing out the Bruisers there as well. Temples and Bruisers. Remember, during that 5-on-4 fight, Tychus was into the top. Melting Point just eradicated that top fort, and now it does look like this is going to be it for this gate here at the keep as well. Could we actually engage? Well, I mean, sure, you could, but you don't have the level 13 from 1 point. If they had just gotten it a little bit quicker, they might have been able to try something here. And this is going to have to be the window that they actually try something, because it's 15 to 13, and very soon Tempo Storm's going to be in that sweet spot of 16 with the talent tier advantage.
Yeah, that's going to be 3 levels advantage for Tempo Storm. That's going to be a massive, massive wall for them to climb over for 1 point to actually just even out this game at all. So it's going to be very difficult, but look at this. Tempo's a little bit split up. They've got 2 and 3, and they're just kind of split up across the map. They have to be a little bit careful. They can't let 1 or 2 kills go over to the enemy team.
Almost called them 1 piece, 1 point. You know, they're looking for their own giants, but they're not going to be able to get them for another minute and a bit. And, you know, Tempo Storm, they weren't on the map. They went off and did some objectives. There was no ganks coming in, and the 16 has now been secured. And at level 16, we still actually do favor out the Stone Skin. We almost never see Relentless anymore, especially on Tychus, because we don't really get to see him at all. But it's still going to be the Stone Skin, and you can still use that now in your Odin as well.
You can, and it's very, very nice. In fact, you can use most of your abilities now in the Odin, which is just so nice to see. Arthalon going to pop into the Odin to already get that long-range barrage going on the enemy team to really ward them away from the turning point for the boss. This is going to be a huge point of contest, but unfortunately, Anubarak is going to get taken out there. There is the Tassadar using Dimensional Shift to get away. The Archon shield's hopefully going to be enough. No, it's not. They're going to lose 3 people already, and that's a massive, massive loss here as there's a boss barreling down that bot lane.
I think it was the Blessed Shield, or it was either the Blessed Shield or the Condemned that actually interrupted the Hinterlands Blast from Falstad. So you can see it's actually still ready to go. They did interrupt it. The graphic was there. That was a big point of success right there from Tempo Storm. Not only that, but they brought Machoke down low enough that he couldn't burrow strike on top of the boss. So there was no contest there either. And this boss pushing down with the Giants in a 5-man team, this is a 12-minute win.
Yeah, look at Tempo. They're just all focusing the core, playing this absolutely perfectly. There's a huge Welling Arrow, but the Ancestral went down actually before that even went and hit KO. KO taking a huge amount of damage, but is able to stay alive, and the core falls. Tempo is going to take 1 point in this series.
17-14. It wasn't quite the crushing defeats that we did just witness in the last game series, but still, Tempo Storm, they have this map's number. The Tychus is something of a rarity, but at the same time, it was almost like more of a split pushing Tychus. So he had the melting point. He was always in other lanes, but only for a few of those team fights was he actually there from the very beginning of it. The Odin got huge value as well for the zoning potential between the Kael'thas, between the Odin, between those hungering arrows coming out from Vala. 1 point was basically just kept at bay the entire fight.
I mean, they just ran this very, very nice long-range assault type of build, and it just was able to do so much damage, and that's really just where they were able to take those victories. Trying to push in on the temple, anytime the team even got close, they were just starting to take a huge amount of artillery coming in there from Tempo, and then the enemy team would just hesitate. They're like, well, I mean, do we go in? We just took a whole bunch of damage. And then so they sit there, they think about it for a couple of seconds, and while they're thinking, they take more damage, and then they just have to back out.
Yeah, backing out was definitely the 1 point right there. I mean, it was just always sounding the retreat. There was, other than the first blood coming out from 1 point, there wasn't really a lot of big follow-up for the fights past that.
Yeah, it's really true. So that's going to be Tempo taking game number 1. Let's